You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Friday. It is the end of the week. Holy samolies, we made it. And it's the Friday before we get to Christmas week too. So hit me some Friday sound effects. Friday! Absolutely. All right, we're glad you guys are with us for this Friday afternoon. We're going to take you all the way to go home time for the weekend, and pushing buttons so ably on the board would be the JP. How you, man?
I'm doing good. I can't believe we're already at Christmas. It's
here.
This year has flown by.
You were shopping last night.
Yeah, I was. I'm pretty proud of the gift I got last night. I'll just say that. I won't say for who or what it is, but it was good. It was a good one.
But I know, and if somebody wants to pay me well enough, I'll tell. All right, good deal. We got a great show laid on for you Friday afternoon. There's so much happening out there right now, not the least of which is what's going on with spending bills, potential government shutdowns, and all that up in D.C. So, yeah, we got 3:30 p.m. today. We got the JP on sports. That's happening. And we'll get the latest rundown on the 3 and out and the 2-minute warnings on sports matters with JP. And then at 4 o'clock, Congressman Gary Palmer is calling in from D.C., I believe. And so the congressman is smack in the thick of what's going on with the potential for government shutdown, which we just heard a moment ago may or may not happen. We'll see. They've got a new plan, Plan C. We'll talk about it in detail. Congressman Gary Palmer calling in at 4 o'clock on that. And then I got a triple dipper just full of stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, and calling it the Fanny Pack. Fanny Willis. Oh, Fanny. Fanny Willis got rebuked yesterday by the appellate court in Georgia, and we're going to just give that a few minutes' time because you know what? It's worth it. I'm just calling this one the Fanny Pack, and just listen, I'm having fun with it. I'm also enjoying it. So Fanny Pack's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, you know the deal. Sometimes when I'm going through stuff, I find, wow, look at the wokeness. Holy cow, how much woke. I got a veritable plethora of wokeness. That means it's time for another Adventures in Woke World. Yes, indeedy. We got a whole charcuterie filled of wokeness, and we'll talk about it. Number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, in conjunction with our conversation with Congressman Gary Palmer, we're going to talk about, is there going to be a government shutdown? So it's a government shutdown question mark right now. That's where we are. What does that mean for us? How does that work for the average citizen? What is a government shutdown, good or bad? What does it mean politically? Is it the right thing to push for? I got some great information, including comments from Newt Gingrich about this. We'll talk about it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper, the government shutdown, question mark? Yeah. All right, let me jump on into my opening monologue, The Right Side Way, and I'll remind you guys, The Right Side Way monologue sponsored for you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Stan McDonald, 30-year veteran in the practice of law, and I'll tell you more about him momentarily. So, I don't know if you saw the headlines or not, but, you know, tucked in between things like spending bills and DOGE and DEI in schools and players entering the portal and more, there was a story that indicates that, I don't know, justice may be returning to the justice system. How about that? Because yesterday, in a landmark smackdown that rivals anything from an MMA octagon fight, Atlanta District Attorney Fani Willis got her fanny handed to her by the appellate court in Georgia. It was a pretty shocking and well-earned rebuke of her misguided attempt to commit lawfare and abuse the criminal justice system just to suit her own political grievances. The Georgia Appellate Court determined that Fani Willis had so grievously committed acts of impropriety and a rushed zeal to get Trump that the only way to restore confidence in the justice system overall was to fully and completely remove her from the case. She didn't lose her job, per se, although that's still possible. The state bar looks at this and decides she ought to be punished with removal of her license. But without losing her job, she was still fired. I mean, just like that. In other words, she did such a horrible job and committed such incomprehensible, impudent, unethical, and potentially illegal acts that the senior court in her state won't even let her continue. She didn't get fired, but she was torched, and rightly so. And listen, it's just an indicator that these are weird times in which we live, right? Weird. To some degree, they're almost unprecedented legally. I mean, think back, just was it last year? A transgender murdered 6 innocent people at a Christian school, and mere days later, the President of the United States issued a proclamation claiming that transgenders represent the soul of America. What? He declared it to be the National Day of Transgender Visibility, whatever that means. In D.C., Democrats have harangued conservatives for the past 4 years over the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol, claiming it was an insurrection. Yeah, an insurrection. People have been locked up for the past few years without due process because they were allegedly impeding the flow of governance. But yet, gun control activists last year forced their way into the Tennessee state capitol in 2023, actually blockading legislators in restrooms and requiring state troopers to intervene. But hey, that was just a peaceful protest. Right. It's as if the world has been captive to some form of madness, some kind of strange mental estrangement from reality where the narrative was twisted every day. But I'll be honest with you, in the middle of all the weirdness we've seen in the last 4 years, nothing beats the left's abuse of the justice system. Let's not forget that while Hunter Biden got a pardon for anything and everything he did or could have done for a span of a whole decade, that people like Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro and General Michael Flynn, they all had their lives ripped away by zealous prosecutors eager to get Trump. Prosecution on principle, not a good thing. And what do I mean by that? I mean that any prosecution needs to be a purely evidence-based actual crime against the rule of law and the peace of society. But having an agenda first, a principle of getting someone at any cost, of using the court system to seek revenge as opposed to simply making society safe, well, that's not what Lady Justice wears the blindfold for. That's nothing but lawfare, and it needs to be abolished. As an attorney myself, I have focused my 2 decades of legal practice to civil law. But within my firm, we have lawyers that practice civil and criminal and domestic and guardianship and real estate and bankruptcy, you name it. I once had a client, though, who had a good mad going against somebody who he told me he wanted to sue just purely out of principle. I told him it wasn't a good idea and I wouldn't do it. He demanded to know why not. I took time to inform him that lawyers actually have rules of professional conduct that we are bound to, rules that govern our profession, and that filing lawsuits purely for the purpose of revenge is nothing more than just, well, revenge. And revenge-based litigation, or prosecution for that matter, flies in the face of what is supposed to be allowed. I also let him know that in Alabama we have something called the Litigation Accountability Act that allows somebody to sue to recoup their damages if they can prove that it was a frivolous lawsuit that was filed against them in civil court. Well, my client was still mad, but he realized that I meant it when I said I was not going to help him use the courts to beat people up just because he was mad. He slowed down a little bit until the next situation arose in which he got a good mad. On another occasion, he had the right to sue a company for committing wrongs against his company, and this time he was right. So we filed suit, and it took several years, but we finally won. And then the case settled at mediation. And he was happy as a clam until he wasn't. Then he got mad, and he wanted to renege on the whole thing. And I told him, I said, you just entered into a good faith agreement. You're going to be sued yourself if you don't follow through. Well, that argument took months. We finally got it worked out. On another occasion, the same client was sure he had someone that had wronged him again, and once again he wanted to sue. This time he was also sort of right, so we started the process, at which point he told me he was going to file a police report, try to press criminal charges. And then I told him, once again, take a deep breath. Do not do that. Namely, again, the rules of professional conduct for lawyers, they stipulate that a lawyer cannot threaten criminal action against somebody in order to gain the upper hand in a civil case. So no, I would not be helping him press charges just to make our civil case look good. And then sometime later, I found out he filed a police report anyway without me knowing, and needless to say, I am not his attorney anymore. Okay, so my point in telling you all of that is that I am an attorney. And as an attorney, I believe strongly that my job is to zealously pursue and defend my client's interest. But I also know that sometimes I have to advise my clients that what they feel is not the same as what they can sue for. This is why lawyers are sometimes referred to as counselors, because we're actually giving counsel, both good and bad. And I should say, too, that I take pride in my profession. As an officer of the court, I was sworn in having already provided all the information necessary for background checks and fingerprinting and everything else about me, and I'm sworn to also maintain my license by taking annual continuing legal education that has to include ethics training as well, every single year. And I'm not alone. It's the same for anyone who practices law that way. And maybe I'm just a small fry Alabama lawyer, not the district attorney of Atlanta or Manhattan or San Francisco or Los Angeles or Baltimore, with George Soros funding my campaign. But I suspect, though, that regardless of how their campaign was funded, every one of those lawyers is still held to the same type of rigorous standards and rules of conduct that I am. Those rogue DAs who prosecute purely on principle, on an agenda, they may be practicing in a more liberal venue than beautiful North Alabama, but nonetheless, the even and unbiased application of the law is still supposed to be the rule. And sometimes, it's not just the client that needs to hear things they don't want to hear. Sometimes the lawyer needs to be told things that go contrary to their notions. And maybe the lawyer, or in this case, the prosecutor, needs to step back, objectively look at a case or a prosecution, and make sure they don't have their own grievances and emotions and politics and prejudices just all wrapped up in it. Somebody should have done that with Fani Willis. Somebody should have told her that the practice of law is not for vendettas. Lawyers should never be engaged in lawfare. Well, the Georgia Appellate Court knew that. Not only did they have to intervene in the present case being brought against Trump because Fanny was wrong, but also because the implication was otherwise very clear that a DA who sacrifices ethics so that she can hang a trophy on her wall is really not a DA. She's just a bounty hunter. And the entire legal system was in jeopardy if it had been allowed to continue. So yeah, Fanny got her fanny handed to her, and it might have saved Lady Justice in the process. Sometimes it's not just the clients who need to hear what they don't want to hear. Sometimes the lawyers and the prosecutors need to be told things as well. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, man, I'm telling you right now, probably one of the greatest pieces of justice in this whole lawfare thing is the court just rebuking Fani Willis. She needed it. Her arrogant self also needs to get out of that office, because if she's willing to do that to Donald Trump, she'll do it to anybody. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so the text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. Same number for both. Some of y'all already figured that out because the text lines are blowing up all of a sudden. But, hey, listen, I told you the Right Side Way monologue sponsored for you by attorney Stan McDonald. Let me tell you about him. So attorney Stan McDonald, I know him personally. I think the world of him. He's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee in Huntsville, a 30-year veteran of law and the practice right there in North Alabama. And not only will Stan advocate for you and fight for your legal needs and your rights, but I can tell you right now, he has a reputation, which I already know about, as being an absolute warrior for causes that are near and dear to right side ruffians. I mean, he's been in the mix for a long time. Attorney Stan McDonald, he's represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He knows how to represent you at every level of court, local, state, federal. And when Stan McDonald's on your side, I like to say you'll have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversaries will have no greater foe. So yes, Stan McDonald from the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Here's how you get in touch with him, all right? He's America First family man, and you can find him at this number. You ready? Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And do me a favor, tell him you heard about it on the right side. And now I got to do the thing. This ridiculous thing. You ready? No representation made. The quality legal service before was great. The quality legal service for other lawyers. That was one of the best ones yet. You know it was.
Yeah.
You know it was.
It was.
That was stellar. I could almost understand every word.
Almost.
Hey, let me get these. By the way, yes, thank you all for yesterday for taking care of Lee. Lee from Huntsville sat in for me for the last 2 hours of the show so that Charlene and I could go with our small group to a church gathering and do Christmas stuff. So that was huge, and it meant a lot to us. So listen, we're members of Church of the Highlands, and if you're familiar with Highlands, it's a really large church, obviously taken in the big picture, but all the various churches, the campuses they call them, are just like what I would call like good sized churches in their hometowns, and we go to the Gadsden campus. But the main campus at Grants Mill in Birmingham is like sort of like ground central. And they've got the Christmas presentation live from there is just, I mean, y'all, you can't go to Broadway and find something this amazingly put together. And listen, it gave complete glory to God. I mean, it was all about Jesus first, and being the reason for the season. But the quality of the production, the epic nature of the music, the worship, the candle lighting ceremony. I put pictures on my social media. I'd encourage you to look at it on Twitter or X at @SinPhilWilliams. Golly bomb, it was just something else. So we had an amazing time, and then everybody went out to eat together afterwards. And just thank you very much for giving Charlene and I an afternoon to do that.
And thank you for also hitting a crazy milestone during that time.
And that's the thing. So I'm gone, and I hear that all of a sudden JP says his favorite, I think, for Christmas would be to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and bada bing, bada boom.
It's funny what happens when you just ask, Say, hey, please.
You guys are awesome. Yeah, so we're over 1,000 now.
We're at 1,017.
You know what that means? That means in the last 30 days, we have doubled the number of subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Listen, so for those of y'all that don't know, that's how you grow on our online footprint. That's how we grow. And by the way, an announcement coming out on Monday about some other things about growing, but we'll tell you about that later. But there's a lot of things you can do on these platforms that we're on, like we're on YouTube and Rumble and Twitch and on X and on our own website, rightsidemedia.org. But they all require thresholds to be met before you can do more. It's kind of like saying, are you serious? Okay, if you're serious, then we'll let you do more. Well, the first level we had to reach on YouTube was 1,000. And you guys spiked it. Spiked the ball, man. Just spiked the ball. If you haven't done it yet, go to YouTube, check us out, Rightside Media, and hit subscribe. And we'll just continue to broadcast live every day, and you can watch us from inside the studio. So yeah, thank y'all very much. By the way, breaking news right now, a story that broke 5 minutes ago is House Speaker Mike Johnson is saying that there will be a vote here momentarily on a new version, Plan C, if you will, to pass a bill that requires funding forward without shutting down the government. I think he's breaking it down into 3 separate bills as opposed to making an omnibus, and that's probably wise. We'll look at it. We'll break it all down here in a little bit. In the meantime, y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you right-side ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, I'm talking about Alabama, y'all. Alabama, y'all. This show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gaston, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And by the way, that is there's a slight change coming. I say slight. There's a change coming. So those of you that listen to us on 101.1 FM out of Birmingham, please know that will change January 1. All right, we went into our contract was up with them. We went into contract renegotiations and decided at the end of the negotiations that we were best served by parting ways. So we will not be on 101.1 FM out of Birmingham as of January 1. But all the ways I told you earlier you could find us, like YouTube, just go listen. The show streams live every single day, and there are people like the lovely Charlene who just listen to it on their phone. You can do that no matter where you are, in your car, on your device, on your phone, whatever else. If you're not in one of our signal strength areas for radio, you can still catch us online, and we do not want to lose any ruffians, so just make sure you know how to do it and hit subscribe on those or follow or whatever the case may be for each individual platform, and you'll be squared away. Luann from Huntsville sends me something, an article that I can't open right now, but thank you, Luann. I appreciate it. Scott from Athens says, they shut Americans down, censored us. Ultimately, we were coerced and jobs threatened. It's time about as fair play. It's time to get serious about stuff. I'm assuming he's meaning the government shutdown. Is that what he's talking about? I guess so.
Yeah, more than likely.
Listen, I don't disagree. I mean, the same people screaming about, you're just not going to fund more stuff. Well, they're the same ones who shut you down and called you non-essential during COVID, right? So private sector got hammered. Government sector, not so much. I don't want to see a government shutdown, but you know what? I'm also really, really tired of the spending spree. I'm really, really tired of seeing the debt limit just go constantly up. So we'll have that conversation today.
And by the way, I personally would rather shut the government down than pass that awful bill.
We're not that bill's gone.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if it's pass that bill or shut the government down, I'd much rather shut the government down.
I think a lot of people were. Bruce, Gary from Decatur says, I don't know what you said to me, Gary. It's Gary from Decatur. Are you texting the show or are you texting a friend accidentally on the show? I don't know what's happening there, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Bruce from Springville says, until she's disbarred, talking about Fanny Willis, Fulton County will always smell like Fanny. Oh, wow. Thank you, Bruce. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, I want to know why Fanny hasn't been disbarred for perjury in court. Also, how will this affect all the other people that you prosecute in the same case? Will there be any overturns? Okay, so you bring up a great point, Jeff, and that's one of the things I was going to say. In my materials that I've got here, no one yet is addressing the fact that she indicted 18 people. This was not a single entity or a single defendant case. She indicted 18 people, some of whom went ahead and pled guilty because they could not afford to hire the attorneys like Trump could to do the defense. I mean, you have people, Rudy Giuliani, I think, was in the mix on this one. You have a number of people now who are watching this going, holy crap. And I guarantee you motions are being filed and they are demanding that something be done with their case. Part of it was a wait and see. They had to decide what the judges or the appellate court was going to do with her. But the whole case is going to go away. There's not a single prosecutor out there that's going to want to pick this thing up and run with it. At least not in their right minds. But then again, I suspect that the whole thing is going to wind up going away at this point because nobody on Fanny's team can work the case. You know what they did not say in the order too, by the way? They did not say she is not to be on the case. They didn't say she couldn't manage the office that carries the case. So I can't guarantee you that she won't be out there lead guiding and directing people from behind the scenes. But right now, what I believe is that the case is likely going away. This is the death knell. I mean, and I don't know that I've ever seen this. I have seen lawyers lose their license. My office got retained by the state bar at one point to help, locate all the files and return them to clients for a attorney in town who had lost his license, and it was pretty ugly. And I've seen people, like a lawyer passes away. What do you do with all their stuff? And I have never seen, and I've seen lawyers fired. I've seen lawyers fired by a client before, but I have never seen, in the middle of a prosecution, an appellate court come in and literally slap down a prosecutor and tell them you're off the case. I didn't know that could even happen, to be honest with you. But wow. So yeah, Jeff, to answer your question, I don't know yet, but it's one of the questions I have too, is what happens to the 17 other people that were indicted in this sweeping prosecution that Fanny Willis has just botched. Lisa from Huntsville says, would you please clarify whether or not our military gets paid if the government gets shut down? I've read so many things that are probably wrong, but I'd like to have clarification from a reliable source. Thank you for all you do, Phil. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Lisa, thank you so much. And it depends on how they style the bill. So the NDAA, I believe, has already passed, and I'll double check it. Will you check on that for me? Just type in NDAA passage and see what you get. But I think the NDAA ran separately. And they typically fund the military outside of other sources or appropriations of government. And did you see it?
They got passed.
They got passed already. So
2 days ago.
So Lisa, I think that the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, I believe covers military pay. Now there may be things like VA. There may be things like other benefits, or there may have been cost of living adjustments that were baked into something else. But I believe the NDAA is going to wind up covering it, unless you see something different right now. I see you typing over there. You got something different on that?
I'm just looking up to see if the NDAA covers military pay. I'm seeing that the NDAA gave the military a pay increase, so does that mean it covers?
I would think it would.
Yeah.
So Lisa, first blush, that's my recollection of this. It's typically because defense is seen as one of the mandates of government. It's providing for defense, and suddenly unfunding defense is not a good idea. David from Athens, or from Bucky's actually, David from Bucky's says, Phil, we need a shutdown. Republicans need to show more strength and not give in to the Democrats. Even with a shutdown, federal employees will get full pay. To them, it's just another paid vacation. Yeah, and anybody who doesn't get paid winds up getting back paid, which doesn't mean if they're living paycheck to paycheck, it could be hard. But I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be fine. And we've been through shutdowns before. And the comments that I'll play for you later from Newt Gingrich, he talks about the fact that when he was Speaker of the House, they did shut down the government for a pretty lengthy period of time, like over a month. And it was what it took to get Bill Clinton to realize they were serious. So there's that. Thomas from Athens says, Fanny Pack, very creative. That's my dipper today. I haven't even talked about it yet, really. The Fanny Pack. Says Fanny Pack, very creative. Says the Georgia should send her packing for the obscene appearance of impropriety. It took 2 out of 3 appeals court justices with the belief that the Georgia judicial system should be untarnished. Yeah, I mean, I would like to have seen something a little more. 2 out of 3, but still, it was enough. And then John C. from Madison just says, "Shut it down." Okay, let me jump on the topic at hand, though. I'm only going to spend a few minutes on this. But Fanny Willis. So if you didn't hear my monologue, I encourage you to hear it, because I talk about the fact that anytime you see an attorney or a prosecutor who is willing to go rogue on some agenda or principle as opposed to what is actually allowed by law or evidentiary based, then you're looking at someone who's not practicing good law. Now, there are times when I have had what I would call the lesser strategy. And if you're the defendant in the case, you got to do everything you got to do. But being the one who brings the case or brings the prosecution, you better know why you're in there. And you better know what you've got in your hands. And you may find out something you don't know somewhere through the course of discovery. But when you enter into that case, if you enter into it knowing you don't have a case, but you're willing to do it on principle only or on an agenda that you're trying to pursue, well, then you don't deserve your law license. There have got to be times. And I kind of outlined one in my monologue. There have got to be times when an attorney acts as a counselor. And that's why we're called counsel at times. We counsel our clients on the application of the law. And there have got to be times when we tell people, just because you're mad doesn't mean you can sue. Just because you think somebody did something wrong doesn't mean it's actionable at law. Just because you've got a good mad doesn't mean you actually have damages that you can go to court and get redress for. Sometimes people have to hear what they don't want to hear. But you know what the flip side of that is? The flip side of that is sometimes it's a lawyer themselves that needs to hear it. And every once in a while, the lawyers just forget. And they just go in there because I've got a law degree and I can do things. And listen, that ain't right. And it ain't healthy. It destroys trust in the system. So yeah, Fanny Willis, story here on Red State. Fanny Willis was indeed just disqualified from the prosecution. The idea that a district attorney was disqualified from further prosecution of a case. Whew. I mean, that's just, I don't know when I've seen this. It says on Red State, it represents a significant defeat for Willis and the prosecution of Trump and various associates. A lower court had previously allowed to stay on the case, instead only forcing the ouster of her boyfriend, Wade. With the Fulton County DA now out of the mix, the entire strategy, including whether to keep pursuing these prosecutions at all, will have to be reassessed. Keep in mind what happened was this, and the reason why it wasn't just that the appellate court saw something new, all right? Because the appellate courts are only allowed to review what happened in the lower court. The lower court had issued an order that said that the behavior was so improper that either she had to come off the case or her boyfriend had to come off the case. Well, the appellate court said, if it's so improper you got to remove one, then the reality is you need to remove both. That's what happened. The appellate courts looked at the decision of the lower court and said, hey, you can't call it improper to the point that you're removing prosecutors and still let the DA herself stay on because she's the one who put the prosecutor boyfriend in place. And she's the one who helped him in the lie. So yeah, it was a complete boondoggle on her part. And yes, the Trump team is pretty happy. So Trump has come out now. You can well imagine. Trump has come out now and has eviscerated her. Story on Town Hall, Dateline yesterday. In an exclusive interview with Fox News, the president-elect slammed the entire case, saying it should be dismissed. He lashed out at Fani Willis for engaging in what he called corrupt behavior and demanded an apology for himself and all the others who've been caught up in the proceedings. His words, it was started by the Biden DOJ as an attack on his political opponent, Donald Trump, he said. They used anyone and anybody, and she has been disqualified. Her boyfriend's been disqualified. They stole funds. They went on trips. This should not be allowed to go any further. The reality is, I don't see how it can go any further. I think this case is just flat done, like done. But you've got this really awful situation that really hasn't been talked about, in my opinion. And that's the fact that Nathan Wade, boyfriend prosecutor who didn't know jack about being a prosecutor because he was a divorce attorney. That's all. He was a divorce attorney. His career was in divorce. And so somewhere along the line, he meets Fani Willis and they had an affair. And they lied under oath during his divorce proceedings about whether the affair had started while he was still married. And then they basically pursued, she hired him in and paid him twice as much as anybody else to be her boyfriend / prosecutor on Donald Trump. The biggest prosecution in the Southeast United States in a decade or more. Think about it. You're prosecuting the former president of the United States of America. And you bring in your boyfriend, who's got no experience in prosecutions, you double his pay, and then you take big trips together with said pay? Come on. And then on top of that, here's the deal. We have now know from his own testimony that he was coordinating with the Biden White House. We just don't know yet for what. Is there more to come on the story? I think so. It'll have to come after the break, though. We'll take a break right now. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just dropping truth bombs is what we're doing. Yeah, so the fanny pack, that's number one of the Triple Dipper. And I'll be honest with you, it's part of what I would call a sense of justice being restored. That's the thing that gets me here. It's not just that Fanny Willis is a knucklehead, all right? It's not just that she's a legal knucklehead who apparently is not qualified to have her job. There is that. But what it also feels like to me is like it's almost as if there's a balance being restored to the justice system. By taking her off the case, the Georgia Appellate Court knew for a fact that the damage being done to the standing of the court system was so great that they could not ignore it. They couldn't just defer. They couldn't just demur on this. They couldn't just, set aside a little something to pretend that it didn't really happen. It wasn't that bad. Let's just move on. None of that. They not only took her off the case, but they smacked her down in the process. I don't know how she keeps, by the way, I don't know how she keeps her license now. Because what we've got now is a case in which she brought a punitive prosecution against 18 people, one of whom is a former and now soon to be president of the United States, that was just farcical in its presentation. It was such a bad case. But man, she got the indictment. I'm going to get Trump. Whoop, whoop. And then she's all in, man. She's going to have a trophy on the wall. It's going to be huge. The lower court should have just gotten some kahunas and done what the appellate court says they should have done all along, which was don't look at this and pretend that this is okay. She was disqualified for her position, and she has now been taken off the case. I don't know how you recover from that. Now, I'm not talking about with the electorate because the people who voted her in may still love her, and she's obviously in a very blue sector of Georgia. But the State Bar Licensure Board is not the same as the people who elect you to office, Fanny Willis. And so I hope that right now what's going to wind up happening is that those who handle licensure for attorneys in the state of Georgia are going to look at this and go, I don't know that we cannot address this grievance and perhaps pull her license. That's where we are. And by the way, the liberal media is having a fit. Like I've got a story here from Town Hall. CNN legal analyst sums up the fate of Georgia case against in just 2 words, saying, it's over. And they just had a meltdown. Said CNN had a low-key meltdown after the announcement yesterday, declaring the case was dead in the water while lamenting that there's no legal albatross around Trump's neck anymore as he prepares to take over in January. I mean, we still have Judge Juan Merchan allowing that case to go forward, but I think it's going to go away on appeal. We still have situations out there where, is there accountability for the January 6th commission that made everybody's life so miserable? I hope so. Jim Jordan says he's not letting it go, and I hope so. But the truth of the matter is this. Fanny Willis being taken off the case was righteous. It was not just justice, it was righteous. And it had to happen. As an attorney, I will tell you it had to happen because those of us that practice law and love the practice of law and love the rule of law are embarrassed by people like Alvin Bragg and Fani Willis and George Gascon and all these knuckleheads who distort the value of being a nation of laws so they can pursue their agendas with lawfare. And I am so glad they did this. I am so glad. Not just because Fanny Willis needed it, and she got her fanny handed to her, but so that we can get some sense of order back in the practice of law. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, Adventures in Woke World. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday before the Christmas week. Oh man, there's a bunch of y'all got to do some Christmas shopping this weekend. You know it's true. You know you've been putting it off. You know you haven't got it done. Christmas shopping this weekend is going to be madness, but yeah, what, Christmas Eve is Tuesday, I think. Is that right? Tuesday?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got all mine done, so I couldn't relate.
You finished last night.
Yeah, I did. Because I knew the weekends would be miserable.
I used to get the biggest kick out of trying to get all my shopping done on Christmas Eve. Like, I thought that was something special.
I don't know why you would even do that to yourself.
I look back now and think that was just knuckleheadedness. Get some text messages before I jump into the next topic. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, what would happen to you if you perjured yourself in court, and why isn't the same thing happening to Fani Willis? Well, that's my point. A moment ago, I think that she is due to have some like license review, some serious potential punitive measures brought to her by the state bar. I mean, they're the ones that govern that profession. If the appellate court is so embarrassed of her actions and believes that it was improper so much so that she can't be on the case, then they almost have to review her license at this point. So we'll wait and see. Ed P. from Huntsville says, Phil, I expect we'll be seeing prosecutions for conspiracy against rights in the Trump administration as a response to the lawfare that's been waged against Donald Trump and so many other Republicans. Maybe. Here's the thing. What I don't want is a witch hunt. I don't want a January 6th commission to root things out and track people down and knock on their doors in the dark of night. And all that. If there's something that's obvious like Fanny Willis, I get it. If there's something obvious like Liz Cheney withholding evidence, I get it. But you know what? Let's don't start a witch hunt. The nation wants to move on from some of that. Gary from Decatur says, okay, he just sent me. Now I understand why you were sending it to me. All right. He said he's referring to a guy named Michael Byron Nafong, who's a disbarred American prosecutor who served as the Durham County District Attorney until he was removed, disbarred, and very briefly jailed following court findings concerning his conduct in the Duke lacrosse case. Oh, yeah. Primarily his conspiring with the DNA lab director to withhold exculpatory. Wow. Well, that guy needed to go away and do some time, man. How about that? Thank you, Gary. Alan from Arab says, how much money did Fanny Willis cost the state of Georgia on this? Ain't no telling, dude. Ain't no telling. There's going to be not only the direct costs, there's going to be the indirect costs. Like when you have to convene the 3-judge panel so it can do the review of her, how much time did they spend doing that? They could have been doing other things. There's indirect and direct costs on all of this. We also know, though, that some of it is directly traceable because she had a budget and she was asking for more money to be able to pursue the very expensive case against Trump. Jeff from Huntsville says, why can't someone appeal to the bar and request an inquiry? The left loves submissions by unnamed sources, so give them some of that. When she disbarred, share that with Mershon. I would think that right now, last I checked, I think the state legislature in Georgia was actually doing something in a similar vein. So we'll see what they do. Keith on a tractor, he just texted in and says, hey, Phil, I'm just now tuning in. Could you explain to me what good is a government shutdown if everybody still gets paid, and how does that save money? And is that the purpose of the shutdown, to save money? There are a number of things that don't get paid, at least for a period of time. You wind up having people that get furloughed. You wind up having people that are contractors that don't get their payments. You wind up having projects that were about to start that get stalled. You wind up having contracts that were about to let that get held. So there's a whole ton of stuff out there that's not just somebody's paycheck. And then there are those who look for a paycheck that won't get it because of the manner in which they fit into the budget process. So Keith, I mean, listen, I'm for holding the fort here. I think they ought to go all four bore if they have to and shut down the government. I think we're there. You can't let Biden today, by the way, this is breaking news, but Biden today came out and said that he is going to forgive another $4.3 billion in student loans today. He hadn't said squat about what's going on with the budget, which is during his watch, technically. He said boo about it. Just like, is he even there? He's an empty suit right now. But somehow or another, his signature is on $4.3 billion in additional waivers of loans. And I just look at this and think, they don't have a clue about money. And then John from Huntsville checking in says, hey, Phil, you seen the breaking news story about a car plowing through innocent people who are shopping at a market right before Christmas in the German town of Magdeburg? He said, my heart goes out to their families. Yeah, John, it's on my screen right now, both screens up on the wall. We've been sort of tracking that. What we're seeing right now is German officials are saying at least 2 dead and 50 injured after a car appears to have deliberately run through a Christmas shopping crowd in Germany. I was talking offline with JP, who said that he saw that there are claims that it was terror-related, although I don't know that we have anything substantiating that yet. But more to come on it. But thanks, John. Yep, absolutely. All right, let's lighten the mood here for a minute. Let's go ahead and dive on. I mean, sometimes when I'm researching this show, I'm like, whoo, look at the wokeness. Is there that much wokeness? All the wokeness in one. Look at we got like a buffet of wokeness, a veritable plethora, if you will, of wokeness, a vast cornucopia, a charcuterie, if you will, of wokeness, which means it's time to run a little bit of adventures in woke world.
Adventures in woke world.
I don't know about you, but I love Senator John Kennedy. That man cracks me up. I mean, there's something about his demeanor. The first time I saw him, I thought, is this guy for real? That guy is awesome. I don't know anybody who can coin a phrase like Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana. That man can disarm someone with the mere, usage of his words. Now, I've got 2 Kennedy stories for you, right back to back. You ready? One's going to be an audio clip. JP, I'll be calling for audio number 1 here momentarily. I got this from the Populous Times, Dateline yesterday. So in case you did not see it, a guy named Charlie Baker, he's the president of the NCAA, sports, right? And they were having a hearing in Senate Judiciary. And he was getting it handed to him. I mean, Charlie Baker was just acting like a nebbish, just like indifferent, like, I don't know, I don't know what to tell you, Senator. And the whole situation they were dealing with was biological men competing in women's sports. And so Senator John Kennedy is wearing him out and got him to admit that, yes, biological males, a transgender woman is a biological male. It shouldn't be controversial, but at least he got him to admit it. And then he got him to also admit that every time a biological male competes against women, they have a distinct advantage. Okay. He pointed out that over 600 female athletes have lost over 800 medals to transgenders, while almost no biological male athlete has ever lost to a transgender male. Okay. Kennedy says, your job is to promote fairness in collegiate sports. Why do you support allowing transgenders who are biological males to compete against non-transgender biological females? And all that Charlie Baker could say was, well, 5 federal cases are out there saying things that give us, and Kennedy says, so you don't have a choice? Well, I mean, that's not what, and it kind of went on like this. Basically what he was doing was just deferring because he's scared of taking a stand, to the point that finally Senator Kennedy says, why don't you just take a position on transgender biological males competing against females? You just told me it wasn't fair. Well, him and a haw and a him and a haw. He said, that's what you're there for. And then here's the kicker, and I love this. In a Senate hearing, he says, why don't you just go on to Amazon and buy yourself a spine and take a stand? I love John Kennedy.
I would like to say that to Charlie Baker about a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's
NIL, portal, whatever else. All right, so listen, we're not going to leave John Kennedy yet because I got a sound clip. And so I thought, you know what? Ain't nothing better than hearing the man talk. So here is Senator John Kennedy. In a we have judicial nominees. The Biden administration is still putting up federal court judges for nomination. And John Kennedy is actually in this hearing in Senate Judiciary considering or listening to a Dr. Benjamin Keys. Dr. Keys is a professor of real estate and finance at Horton, which is, Harvard. And has been nominated for the federal bench. He's also a radical and doesn't want to be called a radical, despite the fact that he's written some very radical things, to which point, when it comes to climate change, suddenly in comes the freight train known as Senator John Kennedy. Play that.
I mean, I see this essay that you wrote in the New York Times.
It's awesome.
Appropriate, New York Times.
So good.
Climate change should make you think home ownership.
Rethink
You
home
like that?
ownership.
Yes, I did, Senator.
It's pretty bold. You own a home?
I do, in a flood zone.
Have you sold it?
Have I sold my home?
Yeah.
I live in my home, sir.
Oh, well, you're telling everybody else to sell theirs. You're a climate extremist, aren't you, Professor?
Certainly not, Senator.
You are a political extremist, aren't you?
Certainly not, Senator.
On July 9th of 2024, did you tweet the following, quote, honestly, the biggest long-term political problem the Democrats have is that they don't know how to talk to low-information morons, close quote.
And he wants to be a judge.
I don't believe those are my words, Senator. I'd have to be able to see them if you would share that with me.
Yeah, here it is, big as Dallas.
Big as Dallas.
I don't believe those are my words, Senator.
You tweeted them.
I don't believe that I did.
Yes, you did.
I may have liked someone else's tweet or retweeted someone else's tweet.
Do you
Those
often
are not my words.
like tweets you don't agree with?
Those are not my words, Senator.
Yeah, but you tweeted them in approval, didn't you? You
Those are
can't
not-
make this cat walk backwards, Professor.
Stop there. You can't make this cat walk backwards. Oh, my Senator John Kennedy is just so good. Listen, I picked all my stories today that I picked for Woke World, for the most part, are liberals getting it handed to them. I mean, I was in the mood already. I had just finished preparing the entire dipper on Fani Willis getting her fanny handed to her. And I thought, you know what, Woke World this and Woke World. I mean, you know what, I'm picking out the Woke Worlds where we actually hand it back to the libs. We get back from this break right now. I mean, I'm still laughing over John Kennedy. We get back from this break right now. I'm going to tell you about a major win in Ohio. There was a teacher that was fired for not using a transgender student's pronouns. Pretty sure she just won. I'll tell you all about it. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Finishing up a little bit of here of Adventures in Woke World. Don't forget, coming up bottom of the hour, we'll have JP on sports for a bit. So, Adventures in Woke World. And I picked stories that, in my opinion, we were winning. We were just like, there's been so much winning. I'm just pleased with all the winning. So here's one for you. Talk about winning. Dateline yesterday. Daily Wire. An Ohio school district will now pay nearly $500,000 to a teacher who was forced to resign after she said she could not use trans-identifying students' names and pronouns due to her Christian faith. Yes. So the English teacher is Vivian Garrity. She's 26 years old. Good for her. She won a $450,000 settlement from the Jackson local school district. So here's the thing. 2 years ago, she was a teacher at Jackson Memorial Middle School. 2 students come up to her and ask her to use the names that, quote, aligned with their new gender identities rather than their legal names. And one of the students also wanted to use preferred pronouns that did not reflect their biological sex. She's like, no. And she went to the principal for help. She was told she would be required to put her beliefs aside as a public servant. That's not how the First Amendment works. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, she was allegedly accused of insubordination, told that continuing to teach without participating in students' gender transitions would not work in a district like Jackson. Can I just have some applause for the fact that she sued, and Alliance Defending Freedom got her $450,000. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's just epic. So, how about this one? Last story before we hit the break. So, it's been, I would say, and I'm being all sincerity here, I would say it's been a tough few years. In the wake of the George Floyd riots and the George Floyd defund the police BLM madness that somehow seized the nation, which I still look back on and think, how was this allowed to gain traction like that?
That whole time period has a lot of events where I think that
I just
2020 was a fever dream.
It was, yes. Like I thank you, fever dream. Can I use that again later?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We may have a whole segment called Fever Dreams. It is. It's almost like you look at it, and you're looking back on it, going, "Was that real? Did that happen?" Looking in terms of crime, the number of police officers during that time since then dropped by 5.3%. That meant 36,000 fewer officers serving in communities around the U.S. Violent crime spiked by 3.8%. Homicides nationwide went up 29% by themselves. Progressive soft-on-crime policies like no cash bail create the revolving door of, getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. Youth crime was way up. In Washington, D.C., just last year, carjackings were through the roof, and the average age of those that were ever arrested were 15 years old. But the defund the police movement appears to have hit the wall. So, a story on the Daily Signal says the nationwide experiment labeled as defund the police was an abject failure, and citizens made it clear they're sick and tired of politicians who coddle criminals and are not willing to support the police. It may take years to recover, but the recovery is underway. They point out the very first one is Kamala Harris, who was one of the very earliest, strongest supporters of defund the police. She wanted to, quote, remember that, reimagine policing. You have 12 out of 25 George Soros-linked progressive soft-on-crime local DAs who were either defeated or recalled in the last election cycle. That's half almost. It's barely under half of the George Soros DAs are out of a job now. The biggest loser was District Attorney George Gascon of Los Angeles. He lost his re-election bid by 24 points to somebody who was considered tough on crime. And then on top of that, voters in California, super liberal district, right? They voted overwhelmingly for a thing called Prop 36. Proposition 36 lengthens jail and prison sentences for drug and theft convictions. They're already, by the way, starting to put shoplifters in jail. As of today, I saw it in California. We're looking right now, though, too, and this is very heartening for me. The Fraternal Order of Police has announced that officers shot on the job in the line of duty this year is 7% less than it was this time last year. And the number of unprovoked ambush shootings of officers is on pace to be nearly 40% lower than it was in 2023. All I'm saying is this. That was a fever dream. That was a period of time in which somehow madness took hold. The woke world got its way for a little bit, and guess what? We're clawing our way back. By God, up fund the police. That's what I say. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. JP on Sports coming up next. Hey, all you right-side ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, y'all, Alabama. And I mean to say this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Like I always had to wipe my brow off when I said that.
Well, I have a feeling that intro is going to get even longer.
It's going to get modified. We're talking about some things on Monday. Just y'all stand by. Right side's growing. But hey, by the way, speaking of which, though, right side's also changing its footprint somewhat. So those of you that listen to this overly broad range of radio on 101.1 FM out of Birmingham, just please know that will change January 1. All right, so we were in contract negotiations. Our time for the contract renegotiation was up, and we decided that at the end of the negotiations, the best thing for us to do was part ways. So we will not be on 101.1 FM out of Birmingham as of January 1. Those of you that listen to us there, just know this. It doesn't mean you can't get us, because you can get us anywhere in the whole wide world by going to the World Wide Web and just listen to us online. You can even watch the studio online. So if you go to YouTube, if you go to Twitch, if you go to Rumble, if you go to, Twitter, X, or just to our website, rightsidemedia.org, you can watch and or listen to us. That's how Charlene listens to the show every day. She just pulls it up on her phone. So, yeah, please do it. In fact, if you haven't already figured it out, go to YouTube. That's one of the best ones. Go to YouTube and find the show. Right now, you can check it out. Make sure you know where it is. If you hit subscribe, that means you'll be able to find it quicker anytime. And those subscriptions actually, by the way, help us grow as a company. So there's that. January 1, changing the way we do business around here, but lots more happening, just to let you know. All right, now's the time when I get to almost sit back and just enjoy the moment, because JP is like sports guru. Like, I just kind of sit back in amazement every once in a while. So JP has his own radio show on Saturday mornings on the Ump out of Huntsville called Off the Bench. And so we started doing a sports segment, and it's just good. So every Friday we do this thing called JP on Sports, and he does two segments. One's called the 3 and Out. The other one's called the 2-minute warning. And I've actually got a stopwatch, and we time this stuff. But we still got to go with some sound effects. So hit it, man. JP on Sports. All right, dude, 3 and Out. What you got for the top 3 stories in sports right now?
Well, we are the college football playoff is upon us. The new 12-team playoff starts this weekend. Actually starts tonight. The first game is tonight between Indiana and Notre Dame in South Bend. Number 10, or the 10th seed, Indiana, versus the 7th seed of Notre Dame. A lot of people are writing off Indiana in this one. Some people are saying they shouldn't have been in the first place because their only ranked opponent they played all year was Ohio State, where they got dog stomped. So some people are wondering.
Dog stomped. Yeah,
it was pretty bad. But a lot of people are wondering how Indiana's going to do against some high quality teams in the playoff, the best teams. So they got the work cut out for them going to South Bend today. We'll see how well the Hoosier fans can travel, because I think I saw some ticket prices for this game in particular, with it being at South Bend. Notre Dame, traditional program, was like in the 2,000 to 3,000s for this game. Yeah, so we'll see if the Hoosiers can travel and help them out. But yeah, I anticipate this game will be Notre Dame pretty handily. I could be wrong. The Hoosiers may surprise me, and I feel like there will be some upsets for sure in the playoff in the first round. But I think Notre Dame is by far the better team in this one. So we'll see how much they win by, but I think I'm cashing in on a Fighting Irish win in this one.
All right. So Fighting Irish all the way. Here we go.
And the winner of this game will play Georgia in the next round, which apparently Carson Beck right now for Georgia is the starting quarterback is not expected to play round 1 for the winner of this game.
Really?
So yeah, he tore his. I don't know if he tore it, but he injured his UCL in his elbow in the SEC championship. So if Indiana can win this one, and then they may get some help not having to play Carson Beck for Georgia, they may just have a path to the Final Four. We'll see what happens there, but they gotta get this one first. This is gonna be a hard one for them, especially at Notre Dame. So
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
All right, but you're still saying Fighting Irish.
Fighting Irish.
Fighting Irish. All right. Rudy.
For sure. Yep. But the next game for tomorrow that I'm excited to see is Tennessee versus Ohio State.
Yeah.
Tennessee is going to Ohio State. The 9th seed Tennessee Volunteers going to Ohio State, the 8th seed. I feel like Ohio State's going to have their tail in between the legs because, they lost to Michigan for the 4th straight year. And the dramatic fight afterwards, people getting pepper sprayed, I think I don't know. I feel like that may have been their season down the drain. I feel like Ryan Day has to win the national championship to be returning to Ohio State after that.
But are they allowed to plant a flag in the middle of the field?
It may be a felony from here on out, according to Ohio State representatives. But yeah, that whole scene, I worry that Ohio State's they've kind of thrown in the towel after they could prove me wrong, and it may have lit a fire to go win the national championship. But yeah, I feel like they're gonna have their work cut out for them. Even this game being at home, let me tell you, Tennessee fans travel, especially with it being the first 12-team playoff, the first college football playoff that Tennessee's ever been in. And you know how Tennessee fans are; they're rowdy. So they're gonna go up to Ohio and show out for sure. But I actually expect Tennessee to win this game because of that reason. I think the fans will travel. I think Ohio State's kind of got their tail between their legs after losing to Michigan, and maybe overlooking the Volunteers a little bit because roster-wise on paper, Ohio State's got the better team, but Tennessee's had to play in a much tougher conference, and so they almost got nothing to lose. So I expect Tennessee to win this game, and the winner of this game will play Oregon, who is the number 1 seed, which is a tough game for either team to win. But yeah, I expect Tennessee to pull off the upset in that one of being the 9th seed, upsetting the 8th seed of Ohio State, which a lot of people thought would win the national championship on their roster. I think they spent $12 to $20 million on their roster. Ohio State did. So, and they still couldn't beat Michigan.
I'm still getting over the idea that college teams can spend to get a roster.
It's NFL free agency,
That's exactly
pretty
what
much.
it is. It's
So
a warm up for the NFL.
Not only are they disappointed the fans with losing to Michigan, but if they get bounced round 1 of the playoffs, Ryan Day maybe bye-bye, the coach, which is crazy. But we'll see if the Volunteers can pull off the win. I expect that they will.
So you expecting a close game or a hard or a big loss?
I think it'll be close. With it being at Ohio State, I think that would make it a close game either way. But I think Tennessee has. They have a lot less to lose, and also they didn't just lose to their rival for the 4th straight year. So I think they're more on the up, while Ohio State just finished with and now they gotta find the energy to get back into it again. So
you can't
lost some
walk that
momentum.
cat backwards.
You cannot walk that cat backwards. No.
All right, what's number 3?
All right, well, next I'm going to talk about the next upset that I think will happen of SMU going to Penn State. The number 11th seed SMU playing number 6 seed Penn State. This game will be in Happy Valley, whiteout game, which I have been to a whiteout game, and it is everything. It's the hype is correct. It's awesome atmosphere, but I don't know. This one's kind of more off a gut feel than anything because SMU, obviously they got in over Alabama. Had some people questioning if that should have been so. They lost the ACC championship to Clemson, but it was a down-to-the-wire game. They made a valiant comeback, and they lost because Clemson made a 50-yard field goal. So it was not like a blowout ACC championship. But the SMU team is a fun team to watch. They're a lot more explosive than Penn State, I would think. And Penn State just lost in the Big Ten championship to Oregon. But the only 2 ranked teams besides Illinois, which I don't even really count that one because Illinois finished like 8-4 or something. But Penn State lost to Ohio State at home, and then they lost to Oregon. So they're 1-2 against ranked opponents, and James Franklin, the head coach, can't win the big game. That's his big thing that people bash him about. So I don't know. I feel like SMU is kind of like in the same boat as Tennessee. They don't have much to lose. They're excited. They got into the playoff. They're going to Happy Valley. So again, sort of like a back against your wall sort of feeling. And Penn State may be overlooking SMU as being the 11th seed. They're playing at home. It's a whiteout game. This is my gut is telling me SMU will pull off the upset in this one.
Okay, so it's not because you're an Alabama fan, you just want to know that the one that beats you out is really the one that can go all the way. It's
No,
not that.
it's not.
Not at all.
Well, also, I got a cousin that plays for Penn State, so you would think my bias would be towards Penn State, but I got to go with my gut on this one's telling me SMU. They're going to lose I think either team will lose next round to Boise State because Ashton Genty, after being robbed of the Heisman, is going to have he's going to have a lot to play for.
Yeah.
So I think either team would lose in the next round, but I think SMU. I got to pick some upsets in this one. I think that would be the big upset first round.
Okay, well that would be huge, and it would also be. Is this the first time SMU has been? And I realize we didn't have this kind of bowl series or what am I trying to say?
Playoff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before, but is this the first time SMU has been at this much hype level?
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is their first year in a power conference. They're in the they were in the Big 12, I think, last year. I can't remember, but they're in the ACC. So this is for sure the best SMU team I would say ever. And pulling off an upset against Penn State round one would that would be program-defining win right there for them. So
Not bad for a bunch of Methodists.
no, it's not. Not at all. A bunch of Mustang Methodists.
Mustang Methodists. All right. So all three of your top three stories deal with playoff games.
College football playoffs that start tonight and tomorrow. But the 2-minute warning will be a cornucopia of a bunch of different topics. So there you go.
Cornucopia.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Well, speaking of which, that's JP on Sports Round 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
It's all right. Now walk that cat backwards. All right. So we're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back and we go into round 2, which is called the 2-minute warning. He gets 2 minutes for any topic on anything on sports, and I've got a timer and a buzzer. Phil Williams, y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades all day long, y'all. All right, we're going to round 2 of what we like to call JP on Sports. JP has his own radio show, 9 to 11 on Saturday mornings on the Ump out of Huntsville, which they can find on what FM, do you recall?
103.9 FM, 7:30 a.m., and also on the Ump app. Which has been having issues lately, but I believe issues have been resolved.
Okay,
so
cool.
Check us out.
9 to 11 every Saturday. All right, so JP on Sports is like pretty cool, pretty solid. But the second round of JP on Sports is the most interesting in my opinion. Now, the whole thing is interesting, but you know what I'm saying? How he flies through a variety of topics. 2 minutes each. We call it the 2-minute warning. I've got a timer and the buzzer. First 2 minutes, go.
All right, so in the world of baseball, it's free agency time, so we're seeing a lot of people come off the board, a lot of record-breaking contracts, and one of them being, unfortunately, a Braves player got picked up. The largest contract for a left-hand pitcher in MLB history. Max Fried signed with the Yankees for eight years and $218 million.
Wow.
So, unfortunately, another Braves player that it seems like there's a cycle, right? Of a Braves player becomes a star on the Braves and he becomes very wealthy and valuable, and then the contract ends, and then a high market team or a big market team like the Yankees or Dodgers comes in and offers them the GDP of Argentina or something, and they leave and they go bye-bye. So I think this is another episode of that with the Braves.
Why is Atlanta not considered a big market team? That's a huge city.
Well,
huge.
Yeah, it's just, the Yankees and Dodgers, those type of cities, they have filthy money. Let me just say that.
Filthy money.
It's they sit at the top and they could buy anybody they want to buy, really. So unfortunately, this is another episode of that. So Dansby left to go to the Cubs. Freddie left to go to the Dodgers, and now Fried has gone to the Yankees. 3 of the most beloved players on the 2021 World Series team are now no longer on the Braves. So, I mean, the Braves still are going to be really good, and they had Chris Sale, who won the Cy Young this year for the award for Best Pitcher. So they're going to be fine. It's just it hurts to see fan favorites leave to go to other teams. So it's unfortunate. But also, I'm glad the Braves didn't spend $218 million on them, because that is just absurd. a lot of money.
That just almost feels dirty.
Yeah, it does. And that has even touched what Juan Soto signed with the Mets for, which was the largest contract in history of $730 million. So yeah. All
right, hit it. There you go. All right, there's the first 2 minutes. Next 2 minutes starts after I reset the clock. Go.
All right. Well, in the world of college basketball, Alabama and Auburn are still going on, right along. Auburn is sitting at number 2 right now. They destroyed Ohio State. They won by 40. And then Alabama, they went up to North Dakota, right? Because one of Alabama's players is from North Dakota. Nate Oates said he wanted to do him a favor, go up, and so all of his family could come see. So they played North Dakota, the University of North Dakota, who is 4-8 in the Summit League, and struggled. They struggled for a little bit in there. They ended up winning by like 9 or so or something, but it looked like one of those games where the players didn't quite well, you have to think about it. They flew to North Dakota, so I assume jet lag was a problem, and it looked...
There's no jet lag to North Dakota. There's no jet lag.
Just a little. And it looked like they were maybe overlooking North Dakota.
There you go.
University of North Dakota had somebody drop 40 in the game. He shot like 7 for 13 from 3. He could not miss, so that contributed. Anytime Alabama would do something, North Dakota would just pass it to this dude in the corner, and he would make a 3. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do?
Dude put up 40 points against Alabama?
Yeah, and he's now made a name for himself. His name is I can't remember his first name. His last name is Eaglestaff for North Dakota.
Eaglestaff.
And he's become very popular after that game. Probably boosted his value to go somewhere and make some NIL money, probably. Hopefully to Alabama. But nonetheless, Alabama got the win, so that's all that matters. But it was not a fun watch. So hopefully Alabama can rebound, and the next game will be at Coleman, I believe on the 23rd, and then they'll be off for Christmas. But yeah, the IBOB continues to be a something that's marked on the calendar as a top 5 matchup. Hopefully, Alabama's at 6, Auburn's at 2, so that would be a really fun top 5 matchup of Alabama and Auburn. The first game will be in Tuscaloosa. So.
I think I'll.
You started playing some Meatloaf.
The Meatloaf Monday, bud.
All right, so that's 2 of the 2-minute warnings. You got another one? Go for it.
So, in this world of NIL and college sports as a whole, Alabama had a very interesting episode of that. So, There's a very highly touted freshman at Alabama named Jalen Backway. Him and Ryan Williams are like best friends. They played in the high school state championship I think 3 years in a row. But he was a very solid corner for Alabama. He was going to be one of the hopefully one of the starters, maybe not this year. He got offered a 7-figure contract by Ole Miss to transfer, and it looked like he was going to. He entered the transfer portal and all.
Which means Lane Kiffin recruited him.
Yeah, when he wasn't even in the portal when he offered them that. So that I kind of figured he was leaving, and he entered the portal, so I thought it was done. But, with inside sources in the new world of college football, people hear about stuff fast, and around 11 o'clock that night, some people started chirping. It looked like that Alabama matched his offer and looked like he was going to be coming back. So that night was a very fun night it looked like everybody stayed up to talk about that. But Alabama ended up matching Jalen Backway's offer from Ole Miss and got him to stay. And apparently also in that offer was a guarantee that he can play both ways, offense and defense, for Alabama this year.
Kids are negotiating contracts now.
They are. That's where we are.
This is nuts.
But yeah, I'm very glad that Alabama kept him because that would have sucked to have him leave.
No, Alabama bought him back.
Well, Alabama had to buy him back because like Ole Miss was gonna steal him away illegally. So. But yeah, that's the world we're in. But it looks like Jalen Backway will be coming back to Alabama after Ole Miss tried to buy him away for 7 figures. So,
God, jeez. Okay.
But I'm happy to have him back. Yay.
Oh my gosh. All right. You got more? We got more? We got time? Let's go for it.
Sure. Well, we got about 20 seconds, but there's a heavyweight boxing title match tomorrow night. In boxing of Tyson Fury versus
is that still a sport?
Alexander Usyk. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm a big MMA guy, but I still like to watch the boxing every now and then. So if any of you want to watch a heavyweight boxing match, the title fight's tomorrow night, go check it out.
I still think Tyson Fury might be the best boxing name ever to
is.
enter the ring.
He's a beast. 6'9".
Your name is Tyson Fury.
Yeah, it's a great name.
All right. Good job, man. Listen, things are crazy in D.C. right now, but we are expecting and hoping a call from Congressman Gary Palmer to call in here momentarily. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, listen, many of y'all know that right now up in D.C., they are wrangling over budgetary matters. And there's a lot of talk about what is a continuing resolution, what is a debt ceiling increase. Will a government shutdown occur? Because apparently that is a possibility. Anytime there's not a budget passed, you can have that as a possibility. It's happened in the past. But what does that mean for us? And where are we right now? Well, there's actually machinations going on the floor of the House as we speak. And yet, right smack in the middle of it is Congressman Gary Palmer, who has stepped out right now to take a call from us and come on the air live. Congressman Gary Palmer, how are you doing?
I'm good, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Listen, I'll just cut right to it. What is the latest? Because we understand that y'all are voting in the next, 15 to 20 minutes?
Yeah, should be voting in actually probably the next 10 or 12 minutes. But we've worked out an agreement with President Trump, and I don't know how many Democrat votes we'll get, but we're about to bring up a package that will need 293 votes, so we're going to have about 80 plus Democrats vote with us. But what it does is it extends the debt limit, increases the debt limit by $1.5 trillion, and we've conditioned that with the agreement with President Trump that we're going to enact savings of $2.5 trillion, and as I did an interview earlier today with Bloomberg Television, and I pointed out to them that we're sending out almost $240 billion per year in improper payments. If we eliminate that over the next 10 years, that's $2.4 trillion. So when people think, well, you're not going to be able to find savings of $2.5 trillion, I mean, I just told you where $2.4 trillion are. The bill will also include disaster relief. It will also include some relief for farmers and continuation of the current farm bill out for another year, which our farmers have gone through a very difficult last couple of years with the drought and the storms combined. So these are things that I think are workable. It's just a matter of whether or not we can get enough Democrats to vote with us.
So, Congressman, let me ask you, because obviously the Republicans have a mandate right now, and the Republicans have a very, very, very narrow majority. I mean, you're going to have, I know you're going to have some Democrat buy-in on whatever you vote on, but how do you, and I understand why President Trump's calling for it to a degree, but how do you address the question of increasing the debt ceiling when we have 36 trillion? How do you alleviate people's fears and concerns about that? Because it just feels like we're putting more on the credit card at that point.
Well, the way we have to alleviate it is that your options are to not increase the debt limit. And people have to understand, we're not in the majority in the Senate right now, and Joe Biden is still in the White House. So our options are extremely limited. So our options are shut down the government, don't pay our military. And we're having a very difficult time right now with recruitment. We're under recruitment goals in every branch of our military. And they just can't, young families just can't afford to be in the military. So that's what the options are. There's 31 more days until Donald J. Trump is sworn in. There's 14 more days until we have the majority in the Senate. The debt limit, we hit the debt limit 7 days after, I think, on January 10th, the date. I think it's after we get the majority in the Senate. But we still don't have someone in the White House that will sign whatever we pass. So I hope you understand the difficulty of the situation that we're in, and trying to avert this. And if you don't if you don't extend the debt limit or increase the debt limit, what you wind up with is our bonds are downgraded, and that increases the amount of money we have to pay in interest. Now, I've had this discussion with the budget chairman, who's asking me to come back on the budget committee about how we can do things to collateralize our debt so that it stabilizes our bond ratings and it brings down our interest payments. But I'm telling you, there are ways to do this, stuff that I've worked on almost from the first day I got here, and it's the first time that we're going to have an opportunity to actually make it happen because we have a president in office who is going to demand that it be done.
Yeah. Well, and I hope that's true, and I recognize too that a lot of folks aren't taking into account, and I'm not trying to just create the discussion here, but there's a lot of folks not taking into account that the debt ceiling that you have right now expires early next year, and everybody knows that the Democrats will then use that as a leverage tool. And so I'm assuming that the debt increase you're putting on goes past the spring of 2025 and gives you guys breathing room so that they can't use this in a minority to try and leverage what they want out of legislation. Is that correct?
I'm not sure exactly how far out it goes. The date is determined by the rate of spending. And I pointed this out to the Budget Committee chair, that if we just did a 1% cut across the board of all agencies except defense, that extends the date. But that's not what President Trump wants. He wants a much longer extension because he doesn't want this to be what shuts down our ability to get anything done on securing the border, on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. He's going to be able to do a lot of stuff through executive order in terms of regulations, but I've got 20-something Congressional Review Act bills to eliminate regulations that will save us a lot of money. So there's just a number of things that I'm not sure people fully understand. It's almost like people think because we had a really good election, Trump got elected, we got the Senate, that they think we're there now. But we're not. This is the epitome of a lame duck session.
Well, it is. It's a lame duck session with high stakes. Let me ask you this. There's been a lot of talk about Elon Musk having influence. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it doesn't really influence what I do. I don't know that he's been in any meetings. The meetings this morning were with J.D. Vance and our people on the House side. But we'll see. I was in a meeting with Vance and Ramaswamy a couple of weeks ago when we had a smaller meeting before they met with the full conference of Republicans and laid out some things for them that they didn't know about. There's for instance, they weren't aware that we've already gone through an efficiency type effort, and it was led by Al Gore of all people. It was called the National Partnership for Reinventing Government. You may remember that. But by the time they completed it at the end of the second Clinton term, they had eliminated over 426,000 civilian federal employee positions and shut down, I want to say, over 200 federal agencies.
They did.
So we've done this before. That's what people need to understand, and it's what I was trying to get across to them. And it was led by a Democrat administration, so they can't come out and start crying that we're taking away people's jobs. This is not new. We can do it. We've got to have the leadership willing to do it. And I think that's what you got in Trump, and that's why he put Musk and Ramaswamy in charge of it.
I agree with that completely, and I think that is going to happen when the day comes that we can get everybody in place to do it. With where we are right now, there's a comment that was made, and I might play a clip on it later. Former Speaker Newt Gingrich pointed out that he said it took it took allowing the government to shut down to get Bill Clinton's attention, and they did it. And I want to say they were out. The shutdown lasted almost 30 days. So if this vote doesn't go through today, if this vote doesn't go through today, do you anticipate that there will be a shutdown, or we all stay in and keep wrangling, or is it going to be a recess?
Well, I don't see how we can recess. And yeah, at 12:01, the government's out of money for all intents and purposes. Now, agencies have reserve funds. That's another thing I'm going to be looking into, and I've been raising this issue for a long time, that there's hundreds of billions of dollars sitting in agency accounts.
Yes.
A huge amount of it's in unobligated funds. So they've got some money. The thing is, though, is you don't pay congressional staff, you don't pay the military. Now, in terms of services, the essential services like law enforcement, U.S. Marshals, things like that, transportation safety people, Border Patrol, they remain on the job. But everybody else but they're not getting paid. That's the problem.
And that was with about a minute and a half left before we have to go to the break. Let me just ask you, so that was a question that was raised earlier. The NDAA passed, several days ago. So that did not include military pay. So military pay would be curtailed if the rest of the CR is not passed.
It does include. It includes a big pay raise. But when you go into a government shutdown, you don't get paid.
Okay.
And I've already instructed my chief of staff, if we go into a shutdown, to instruct the paymaster not to pay me, because if we're not going to pay our military, if we're not going to pay our staff, I'm not going to get paid.
Well, and I appreciate that, and that's honorable, and thank you very much. Well, listen, I know you guys are due to vote momentarily, and the Democrats are, I guess, keeping their cards close to the vest. We don't know what Hakeem Jeffries is saying about his crew yet?
No.
Okay.
The Democrat who's on the Financial Services Committee, I guess their ranking member, has come out in opposition to the bill. So,
well,
and I'm telling Phil, I got the bill 10 minutes ago. It's 2 pages longer than the one I read yesterday, but I think it's basically the same bill. But I'm hearing now that they may have pulled the debt limit out of it. I don't know how that impacts things. So,
well, where is
I've got it on the television. The floor debate's going on right now. So,
well,
I think it'll conclude in a few minutes.
Well, I know you're gonna have to get to the votes, but let me just ask you a last question. I know that the Freedom Caucus was largely opposed to where things were. Chip Roy, Biggs, and several of the others. Are they on board now with the? I guess I'd call it Plan C.
Well, this morning in conference, the members of the Freedom Caucus that went to the microphone all supported it.
Okay. Well, that would be a whole new day. Well, Congressman, listen, in case we don't talk to you, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you for the integrity of saying I won't be taking my pay if no one else can, and just let us know, keep us posted, and we'll announce it on air as things progress, okay?
Well, I appreciate it, Phil.
All right.
And you do a great job. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. Take care now. All right, I ran long. That was great. I mean, the guy is literally watching the debate, and he's about to go to votes. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about here, a lot of stuff to unpack about what he just said, and a lot of stuff that some of y'all may care deeply about and want to know more about. And I guess that the question of military pay was also answered by the congressman himself. All right, more to come. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, pulling pins on truth grenades in here. Let me just go to the phones because I've only got like 2 or 3 minutes before we go to the break because I ran long with the congressman. Robert from Athens is on line 1. Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You doing all right?
I'm doing all right, man. What's on your mind?
Oh, Lordy, man. That mess they got up there on all the voting they're trying to get done.
Yep.
We had a good turnout on the elections and everything, but I don't think these senators and congressmen, I don't think they know they can be replaced or recalled. And the Americans, we had a really good vote. And they need to keep that in mind because they can be recalled.
Well, there's actually no recall on congressmen and senators, but they can certainly be primaried. That's the thing. But I think they do know that. To be honest with you, and a lot of them could care less. And then those that do care, I tell you what. Here's the thing with this, Robert. I don't want somebody going up there making their votes based upon whether they're scared of losing their job. I want them to go up there and do what's right. And that's one of the most aggravating things that used to happen to me when I was in the state Senate would somebody say, well, we're going to make sure you get primaried. That doesn't bode well for the person who is trying to do the right thing. And I'm not saying they're all trying to do the right thing. I'm just saying I think some of them can care less, and I think some of them care too much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know it. But I tell you what, I don't think there's any American that's afraid of anything. I've never thought that way because we've been through too much. Well, and I don't believe we have a bunch of afraid Americans.
No, I don't either.
About what they're doing.
I think that we are still the greatest nation on the face of the earth. I do think, though, that we need some more people with that kind of backbone who actually will run for office and then not try to just keep their office forever, But listen, man, Robert, we'll wait and see, but I really do believe that there's some folks up there who are trying to do the right thing, and then there's some who could care less because they're part of the establishment, and then there's some who care way too much about what people back home are saying and doing, and they're scared because they don't want to step to the left or the right, and they watch which way the wind blows. But it's a mess.
They need to be afraid because the American people are tired of being taken advantage of.
Well, and I agree with that, and that's why we just want to see them vote. Hey, listen, the music's about to play, brother. I got a very short segment here, and I apologize. Robert, you have a great weekend, all right?
You too, man.
All
Merry
right.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Take care now. Yeah, we're going to talk about this when we get back from the break. I got several thoughts on this, and I'll be honest with you. If we have I don't want a government shutdown. I don't. I've got family members in the military. I've got people that care, that I care about, that I know would be impacted. But the truth of the matter is we're all being impacted by this. And I want to know that the decisions are being made in the right way. And is there things that we can do now that we can do better later? Yes. But God almighty, can we just please do what is necessary in a statesmanlike way right now? We'll talk about it in great detail. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you right-side ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, I am talking about Alabama, y'all, Alabama. And folks, this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, we have an announcement coming on maybe Monday, but we'll let you know that then. Hey, I got to tell you, though, so there's going to be a change, and I need you guys to catch hold of this. There's going to be a change come January 1. Those of you that listen to us on 101.1 out of Birmingham, please know that we are going to be coming off that station on January 1. So if you're a 101.1 ruffian, then just know that we went through contract negotiations with them. We decided after it was all said and done, you know what? It looks like the best thing for us to do is part ways. So we decided to part ways. And that does not mean you can't get our show. So the live show is going to continue every single day. And we have some announcements coming, like I said. But for right now, just know this. You can, if you haven't already done it, go check out the online ways. That's the way Charlene listens to the show every day. She just pulls it up on her phone and listens to us on the web. You can go to our website, rightside.org, rightside.org, or you can go to YouTube. And YouTube, by the way, thank y'all for helping us hit well over 1,000 subscribers now and growing. But if you've been to YouTube and you've seen Rightside Media, all you got to do is click subscribe on us. And then, first of all, that helps us grow. But secondly, it helps you find us anytime you need to very quickly. We're on every single day on Twitter in 2 different places. We're on Rumble, we're on Twitch, and we're on YouTube, and we're on our website. We're streaming video and audio of the live show. So just get on in there and check it out, man. Just jump on in where you can and hang on. Is that Clarence on line 1? Let me get that line real quick before I play something else. Clarence from Huntsville. Hey, my friend, how you doing?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good till I wake up and I see this mess every single day.
Yeah, tell me, it's just like a horned toad got in the bed there and rolled around. What's going on? What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I think about it. I think we only got just a couple of options. I think the most important option is let's look at Congress from the beginning and say, first of all, none of y'all should be able to vote on your own raises because you're not a federal employee, period. You shouldn't get federal insurance because you're not federal employees. You work for your state, and you were sent from your state to Congress.
Well, but the reality is they get paid through the federal government because they are indeed federal employees. I mean, I got to go with that one, man. They that's where their budget is. Their money comes out of that. But they shouldn't be voting themselves a pay raise right now. I know that for a fact.
Well, I know that's how they are listed now, but we need to stop it because the state sends them. So I think the best option is to let the state pay their individual congressmen what the state deems is worth, and let's get rid of career politicians, and they can go back to the way that politicians started, where they got paid for the amount of days that they were there.
Listen, you know what? In the Alabama State Senate, that's exactly the way we got paid, the amount of days that we were there. And then,
it's the only thing that makes sense. And what really needs to happen to make this happen, because you know as well as I do that the thing that would be the most effective would be to have some term limits on Congress, and that's not going to happen. So maybe Trump needs to be sending Elon Musk and Vivek out there and let them go and organize a convention of states and let the governors finally do it.
Listen. Convention of States is a crazy cool idea that's got some nuances, but it's got some scary stuff mixed in with it too. Some folks believe that if you open up a Convention of States, it opens up the entire Constitution to be gerrymandered all at one time.
Yes, well, you know, that's what they believe, but it would be, in my opinion, it would be hard to do it if you look at how much you would actually need to happen right now with enough red states to block it.
Yeah, Listen. I think there's a lot to be said for term limits. I was one of the only state senators in Montgomery that kept signing on to the idea of term limits every year, and nobody else would, because they weren't going to vote against their jobs, and too many of them looked at it as their personal identities too, for that matter. But listen. I watched today. Mitch McConnell gave a speech from the floor of the Senate, and the man is hard. I don't know if he could even find his way back to his office right now. But he's still listed as the majority leader for the time being in our U.S. Senate.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole other issue, the cognitive abilities of a lot of people in the Senate that have gotten there through the years. And so, I couldn't go to my job for the most part, and I work in healthcare. I couldn't go to my job if I did not have my cognitive abilities. I would get sent home because it's not for the better interest of my patients. Well, they are not in the better interest of their constituents or America as a whole if they don't have cognitive abilities. I mean, we're being run right now in our country. I mean, where is our president? Where has he been for 6 months?
He is absent.
Really calling the shots?
He's an empty suit, man. That guy's gone. Hey, listen, Clarence, I got to get a couple more things, but you be careful, brother. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Take care. That man's live wire, isn't he?
Spot on, too.
Spot on, too. Hey, by the way, they are voting right now up on the Fox News screen here on the walls of the studio. The votes are underway. We already have 11 nays. I'm assuming that I don't know. 11 Republicans have voted nay already, it looks like.
I know I've seen it in your resources, but we had 38 people vote nay on the last one, and we've already got 11 so far on this one. Why? What in the world, dude?
So here's the thing. Let's talk about this. All right, let's get the lay of the land. All right, let's catch up. First of all, what is a continuing resolution? Most of y'all know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The budget process, if you get into the regular order of business, requires the appropriations committees from the Senate and the House to have subcommittees that handle all the things, like one for transportation, one for, the military, one for what. Anyway, they work their piece of the budget and they debate openly and they pass their budgets up to the overall appropriations committee, which then forwards a full budget to the floor to be voted on and debated by the larger body. That has not happened in quite a while. So rather than go through the budget process, they keep going, well, we just couldn't get it done. And so they pass a thing called a continuing resolution. What is that? It's a resolution to allow what they've already done to just continue. Like, okay, what we said before, let's keep doing it, and we'll get back to it later. And it's a cheesy way of getting around the budget process. It's really an awful way of doing business. But it's the way the Democrats have done it now for a while. And when we get back to, and I've seen Senator Katie Britt calling for the regular order of business to be restored. And when we get back to having Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, there better freaking be a return to the regular order of business. Right now, Chuck Schumer still controls the Senate and Joe Biden still controls the White House. So we're stuck with a continuing resolution. I hate it, but there we are. The question then is, how do they keep tacking on new stuff? Well, it's a CR. You're not really continuing if you're adding new stuff, but they keep adding new stuff. And then they also add in what you call pork, which is just spending on things you don't need. And then they also add in regulatory and budgetary language, which guides things, but really changes the law. Things like they had protections built in for the January 6ers to not be investigated and things like that. All right, all said and done, that's the CR. Then there's the debt ceiling. We have to authorize by Congress the use of debt, which means we don't have enough money for all the things we want to do, so we'll borrow some to do it. It's like you and I paying our light bill, our power bill on our credit card. However, it's as if they don't have enough space on the credit card. So they keep asking the bank to give them an increased debt limit on the credit card. And that's what they're doing. By law, they have to either A, extend the use of the credit limit and raise it, or they're stuck with what they got. Right now, the debt limit they have is due to expire in the early parts of next year. So as Trump is taking office and just getting his legislative agenda into the body for debate, suddenly they have this debt limit fight they have to have, and the Democrats know it, and the Democrats want to use that as a tool to beat up on Republicans and try to hold it hostage while they try to get good things done. Trump is asking right now to go ahead and resolve as a Congress to increase the debt limit slightly and extend it out further than what it is so he has time to get his legislative agenda going before that big fight happens. But hardliners, and I consider myself to be one, hardliners are sick of seeing the credit limit raised. And so 38 Republicans, mostly from the Freedom Caucus, all said, we're not doing this. We're just not doing it. And so they said, we're not doing it as long as there's a debt increase. Well, 38 Republicans were all needed, but you also are going to have Democrats. Democrats are loving this. Democrats are like, we're just going to make this go badly for you. The thing is, it really goes badly for them if you get down to it, because it's Democrats who still control the flow. For right now, it doesn't matter what the election was. None of our people are fully in charge until next year. So for right now, we own the House by a small majority, very small. And that means we have to have Democrat votes to get this done. I'm looking up right now. There's a motion to suspend the rules and pass a continuing resolution to avoid a government shutdown that is taking place as we speak. So far, 100 Republicans have voted yay, 41 Democrats have voted yay, which is basically saying that we're on track potentially to pass it with Democrat support. 18 Republicans appear to have voted no. I imagine most of those are the ones who have been fussing about the debt limit. All of it makes sense. The crazy thing is, this is one of those maddening situations where both sides make sense. Nobody wants the Democrats to have sway over us next year as we're starting off a great new agenda, right? And yet, at the same time, we're all sick to death of seeing spending like this. So if what Congressman Palmer said a moment ago is true, if they're really going to come in and say, all right, listen, we're going to increase the debt limit slightly to push it out further, we hope, and then at the same time, we're going to also cut spending. And then next year, we get back to regular order of business. That's a better solution. But y'all, the reality is this. It's a broken situation. They've got to do away with CRs. In Alabama, and I know you may think it's just a state, Phil. It's just a state with multi-billion-dollar budget. It's just a state that actually has a reserve account. Why do we have a reserve account? Because our state constitution requires us to have a balanced budget every year. And if you don't balance the budget, if you do it so poorly that halfway through the year you don't have enough money, guess what? The governor has to declare proration. Proration means you got to cut in the middle of the year. And that's painful. So that's why you avoid doing that. That's why you pass a budget that makes sense. If they did that in D.C., we would not have $36 trillion in debt. It doesn't mean we would never have debt, because when a war arises or something unexpected like a massive, Hurricane Sandy or something like that, things happen you can't expect and the federal government steps in. I get it. But right now they're just spending on crap. Things like the Inflation Reduction Act, things like, forgiving student loans. It's been a spending spree for 4 years. And truthfully, some of the Trump term was a spending spree. We've got to get back to the regular order of business. Got to. Right now, I would imagine the votes are coming in right now. It looks like we got 179 yays, 21 nays.
How many yays do we need?
I think he said we'd have two something. I forgot what it was. But it looks like we're going to have, we got a ways to go. But they've only got a couple of minutes left on the vote. So I think the votes are not being tallied as quick as we're looking at it. But we'll see. Meanwhile, I don't believe they will all go home. I think and listen, I appreciate the fact that there's some of them that are willing to say, we won't go home for Christmas. And some of them are pissed, and some will vote, tell me how to vote, I'll do whatever you want me to do, I want to go home. I've seen guys in Montgomery do the same thing. We just want to go home. So end result is there's a lot of work to do. And we'll see what this vote does, but it's counting as we speak. All right, listen, that's I didn't even get to play my Newt Gingrich.
I mean, you can on the other side if you want.
We'll see. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. I think they just passed it. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, just so you know, it appears they have just passed, and I'm assuming this is not a procedural vote. I think this is the actual vote on the CR. So I can't tell from the title given to it on the TV or not. But they just breached the 300 mark. They got over 308 votes right now in favor of passage, and I believe that means they have, and I see people hugging each other, so now I guess that means everybody's going home for the holidays. So I would say the government shutdown has been averted, and they are moving on, and hopefully the next time we talk about any kind of budgetary matters, we're in the regular order of business. Let me jump on the phones before I run out of time. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm in almost Bowling Green, Kentucky, so I'm doing fine, man.
Wow, bro, that's good. Good deal. You're moving fast today.
Yeah.
Well, what you think about all this?
On this debt thing and everything, at what point, can you put a figure on how many trillions of dollars we're being debt before you think the dollar will completely collapse?
No, I don't.
I mean, does anybody? It's going to happen. I mean, it's got to happen. So there's got to be a number on it somewhere.
You know what? The only way so there's two things here. One is I think before we ever got to the point that we would let China collect on its bonds that we sold them, that we would just go ahead and default and tell them to stick it. But the reality is that would bring our bond rating down. It would bring down the dollar's value. It would crush our economy. And there are things about it that would really truly have a negative effect. We would feel it. Is there a dollar? Is there where's the limit? I don't know. I mean, you think we'd be there by now, but apparently we're not.
I mean, it would collapse the whole world economy. But the first time we ever crossed the threshold of $1 trillion was in 1981.
Yeah.
And we crossed. There's one good silver lining in all this.
What's that?
Is that the inflation rate is probably higher than what the payment is on the trillions of dollars on the interest rate. So I guess they're losing money basically, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because think about what you could buy in say the turn of the 20th century in 1900. You could buy a Sears and Roebuck shotgun was like $5 or $6 or whatever. The money hasn't changed. The dollar's still worth 100 pennies. But now, look how much it costs for just the inflation rate is ate up so much of the dollar that if we keep going, it's just going to completely collapse, and it's going to, you might cost you $1,000 for a loaf of bread, like some of the other countries that's currency has collapsed.
Well, this is going to, what this boils down to, though? It's going to take leadership. It's going to take leadership and backbone. It's going to take people who are willing to say, I know you want some port projects. I know you want a bridge to nowhere, but we just can't do that anymore. That's what it's going to take. And I realize that Trump did some of the big spending, too, during his time frame. But, man, I tell you what we saw over the last few years has just been, oh, God. So we got to get there. Hey, brother, listen, the music's about to play, but you have a great weekend, and we'll be here next week, all right?
You may be here, but I'll be sitting at home for 2 weeks. So I'm getting furloughed, and I don't get no money. So darn, I'm kind of feeling left out.
Well, just stream it online and call us when you can. All right.
I will.
All right,
have a good one,
Take
Phil.
care. All right, listen, it is going to be a great weekend. Cold weather coming in, which I love, and JP doesn't, but it's going to be a great weekend.
I hate it.
But those of y'all that are going out in the shopping madness, be careful, and just know this. This audience is the exact same reason we do what we do every single day. You guys are awesome. We love you. We cannot do this without you. We could talk in a microphone. Ain't nobody there. It doesn't matter, right? So listen, every single day you're going to listen to the show, and it's going to be that Jesus is Lord, America's great, Alabama's beautiful, life's worth living. And I'm telling you, do not forget, there are more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you next week.